Sumerian and Egyptian handwriting. In grade school, we learn the Egyptian and the Sumerian civilizations were highly advanced. But in learning about their civilizations, we realized they weren't so much different from us today, minus cars and electricity and sorts of things. But just how advanced were they? We've been lied to for quite some time. We are told that Sumerian chloroform texts equal out to the alphabet. ABCs and such, dashes and ticks make up letters, which in turn make up sentences and make up words. But that's actually highly incorrect. The Sumerians were so advanced that they wrote in ticks and dashes. As you see, you got little triangles for the ticks and the little lines of dash. And they will tell you that these represent letters, when in all actuality, that's highly incorrect. The ticks, dashes, and marks represent numbers. This is the only way, either numbers or dots and dashes, very much like Morse code or binary code, which is ones and zeros. That, in turn, makes up words and sentences, but the actual writing itself is binary code. Matter of fact, it's the first form of binary code in history, which we know is the language of computers. Now, how advanced do you have to be to literally write in binary code as a form of writing? The Egyptians, same thing. We are told that the Egyptians were highly advanced technological, but we're like, how? They had sticks and stones and hunter-gathering, you know what I mean? It doesn't seem very advanced. We'll take another look. Look at their hieroglyphs. Many people will tell you, again, just like the Sumerians, that these symbols equal out to letters, which equal out to writing sounds and sentences. While that may in part be true, that's not the fullness of the language entirely. Hieroglyphs are images and symbols that are actually the very language of God. So we know in the Bible, when God wants to communicate, he communicates through dreams, he communicates through visions, you know what I mean? Images. So to just have a language in images, point blank, period, is miraculous. Now, how do you decipher how to read this? Well, back a long time ago, being clairvoyant, gifted, psychic, whatever we want to call it, was not an out-of-the-box or a crazy idea like how it is today. Matter of fact, this is probably the first time in world history where having any sort of type of ESP or gift is labeled as phony, fake, or false, when in biblical times, it was actually a highly regarded trait used to be able to predict omens, decipher and interpret dreams and the will of God, etc. Well, the Egyptian hieroglyphs are images, and you'll never believe this. The way you read them is through the mind's eye. You don't actually read. This is probably the very first form of what we see when you go to the movies and you see a projectile. Well, the image gets taken in through the eyes. It gets refracted and, translated through the brain. And it appears as a vision through the mind's eye. So the lines that you see for each hieroglyph, imagine them, if you will, as if the images on a film line or a tray or whatnot. And so for each line, it's like this miniature clip. It's kind of like what we do now with Instagram and TikTok, these little miniature videos or whatever, but you're not actually reading. You are reading. You can read hieroglyphs with the tongue. However, they are meant to be seen as vision through the mind eye, which would not be abnormal For the Egyptians, considering that in order to be able to decipher these hieroglyphs, you had to be a highly gifted third eye priest or priestess, because this is how God communicated with his people. They had visions, they dreamed dreams, they had psychic abilities. This is how the ancient Egyptians were so advanced that you had to be very gifted. And so when you looked, you got to see history or see the vision or whatever it was. And that was the language. So were the Egyptians highly advanced? Absolutely. Were the ancient Sumerians highly advanced? More than we have been told today. We have been given an inaccurate description of both. Imagine how advanced physically you would have to be to create both of those languages. It's crazy and highly controversial.